All right, welcome everyone. We are now recording for the webinar to go over the new health monitoring pages inside of PowerSchool. I'm going to start off by saying that this should be used for training purposes only, that we are not using any real students or data in this video that we are filming here and in this training that we are showing. This is a sandbox full of fake students and fake data, and any likeness to any real student or person is purely coincidental. So welcome everyone. It's been a long, hard ask by many nurses across the state to have additional monitoring features inside of PowerSchool CS. Very heavily recruited were the cath and the tube feeding monitorings that were needed. When we first put this ask in front of PowerSchool, they agreed to put these two features inside of here and ask what needs to be in these pages. So Dr. LaBrenna Marshall worked with her nurse task force team, which are made up of nurses all across the state of Alabama, of what fields need to be placed into these monitoring team pages. And they were built based on the recommendations of our users. So the fields that you see were recommended by your peers across the state as to what PowerSchool built out in its use. So very, very good that they took that feedback and were able to deliver for us in the latest update that was just applied to all servers last weekend or this past weekend. So I'm going to pop into Mickey Mouse right here just to kind of show you what I'm talking about with these additional monitoring pages. I'm on the health page and the monitoring page, and you will notice that my page looks very different from your monitoring page. Inside of this page, you will now see that there are additional tabs for tube feedings and catheters. This is an opt-in feature for districts. And so if you do have a student that you have tube feedings and catheters that you need to monitor and collect information on, you will want to ask your district PowerSchool administrator to enable this feature. If you do not have students who meet this criteria and you don't have to worry about these types of monitorings, then it's really up to you as a district whether you want to turn this on right now or not. I would say best practice, go ahead and have it turned on. That way, if 6 months from now you enroll a student that does have one of these health conditions, you won't have to stop and remember what was it Stacy said we needed to do to get these on there. So let me show you at district office how you have to actually enable these additional monitoring types. So this does have to be done at the district office, which is why I say you want to probably reach out to your district PowerSchool administrator to do this, because not everyone's going to have access to the page I'm about to go to. At district management, you are going to go to health, and then there's a health setup page. In this health setup, you're going to have a new checkbox right here that says to enable additional monitoring types. And so let me make that page a little bit bigger so that you can see that right there. You're going to want to check that box. So see, right now your page probably looks like this with it unchecked. You're going to want to check it. And then when you check, these two do not automatically check. So you can choose both of them. You can choose one of them. My suggestion is to go ahead and flip both of them on just so that you have full capabilities and functionality to this. So you want to check for the catheters and the tube feedings. Zoom back out a little bit, and then you'll submit the page. And that's it. That's all it takes to turn this functionality on. So once you turn that functionality on, it does add those two additional tabs on the monitoring page in the health module for students. So now let's talk about how that page functions. It works almost exactly in the same way that the diabetic monitoring page works. So I'm going to go back into a student record because it's best to show it from there. And I love my favorite Mickey Mouse. Now, with these monitorings, just like you can do with the diabetic monitoring, you can add a single monitoring straight from the student record, or you can schedule these monitorings so that it will show on your daily to-do list. I keep wanting to call it a daily log, but it was renamed with the new enhanced user interface to our daily to-do list. So if you have a student who is chronic and you have to do multiple monitorings once a day, even multiple times a day, then best practice is going to be to schedule that monitoring out. If it's a one-off where you're only going to do it every now and then and you're saying I don't need it scheduled at a specific time, you do not have to set up a schedule for this monitoring. You can simply add it in with an add button. So you'll see with the diabetic monitoring, the schedule and add buttons are there. If I flip to the tube feedings, You're going to again see that same schedule and add button. And once again, if I go to the catheters page, you are going to see that schedule and add button. So all working the same way. So what I'm going to do is actually go through both processes so that you can see it from both ends. I want to go through scoping out a schedule for tube feeding and catheters for Mickey. We'll show how to access it from the daily to-do list, and then we'll show how you can do a one-off. I don't know that you would have students with severe needs such as tube feedings and catheters that you would do a one-off. Those are probably always going to be scheduled. But like with the diabetic monitoring, you could probably do a one-off monitoring that wouldn't lie within a schedule for those students. So let's start with the tube feedings. Now, I'm going to preface this, and I have always said this anytime I've talked to nurses. I do not have a healthcare background. I am not a nurse. I can do enough to save your life with CPR, but that's about the extent of it. So as we go through practicing these, I'm going to need my nurse friends on this call to help me out in chat to say what to put in these fields because I have no clue what any of this means. I just know how to make the program work. So we'll work together on that. So let's start with tube feeding. So let's say I have a student, Mickey Mouse here, who has a tube feeding, and we have to schedule that there's some action I have to do as a nurse every day at 9 o'clock in the morning. We're just going to shoot from the hip and say that that's it. So what I would do first, once I've activated these pages, is I would come to this monitoring page here and I would go to the schedule button. Now I do want to say you need to make sure that you have edit access to all of these pages and all of the flyouts, or you will not be able to get a schedule completely finished. It will leave it in a pending status. So if you get to the point where I actually am able to complete the scheduling and you can't, it means that you do not have edit access to all of these flyout pages, and your district PowerSchool admin who oversees security would have to help get that untangled. And we can help as well if you need assistance in that. So when I click the schedule button, it's going to fly out the scheduling monitoring event, and I'm going to click add because this is brand new. I have nothing in there so far. So I want to do the start date. Now I'm going to tell y'all my pilot environment, I run it year round because we have to teach all year long. So I'm going to use some really weird dates. In fact, I do my end of year rollover tomorrow night. So tomorrow ends my school year in my pilot. Next year starts 8/1. So everything's going to be today and tomorrow in the dates. But you think about starting school on, 8/7, 8/9, whatever day it is, and doing this for however long you need to for these students. So I would put the start date in. So let's say the start date is today and the end date is, the end of school per se. And in this case, it's tomorrow for me. What time do I need it to be? So let's say it's 9 o'clock a.m. What days of the week? Do I need it every day of the week? Do I only need it Monday, Wednesday, Friday? I'm going to do it for every day. And I know a lot of people ask, Stacy, why is there a Saturday and Sunday on here? We don't have school on Saturdays, Sundays. So I always have to remind people that PowerSchool is an international product, and there are some countries that do go to school on Saturdays, and so that's facilitated for some of those international customers. I always recommend to check for only the in-session days unless you have a reason to need to take these or have dates in there for dates that are like your holidays. Not many people do. So this is the typical setup that you would want in the detail. And I'm going to click OK. And so now it's got the bare bones of it is set, and notice it's that pending right here. So to actually activate this so it starts to create kind of a chart on the student record and then push this over to that daily to-do list, I need to hit the submit. And if you don't have this submit button, that's where we've seen some hiccups on the diabetic monitoring with people not having full access to the page. So when I hit submit, it's going to say, are you sure you want to create this series of events? So if I had used the first day of school and let's say the end of school, because you're expecting the student to be there the entire time, then I would say yes, and I would want it to fill me out a slot at 9 o'clock every day of my school calendar to be able to do this monitoring on this student. And now you will see it has been successfully created. And if you see in the background right here, I do have those 2 dates pushed in. Had it been the entire school year, you're going to see a whole long list of those dates inside of there for you to facilitate. Now, one of the questions that I have from people a lot of time is, well, Stacy, what if they have to come in multiple times a day? Like maybe I've got to check this tube feeding or this catheter or do this diabetic monitoring at 9 o'clock in the morning, at 12 o'clock right before they go to lunch, and then again at 2 o'clock before they get on the bus. Perfectly fine. You just have to create another monitoring event. So if you need it monitored multiple times, you would create multiple schedules, one for each of the hours that you need it to hit that daily to-do list. So let's pretend that on this one that I need to do something at 9 o'clock in the morning and 1 o'clock in the evening. I'm just going to hit add again. Again, put my date range. So I'm going to put today and tomorrow. You would put first day of school, end of school, however they are. Put your second time. So I'm going to do 1 o'clock p.m. Again, I would check whatever days of the week that I needed this to occur on. Click OK. It throws it down here. It again goes to that pending status because it's going to ask, are you sure you want to create that series of events because you're creating that calendar for this? So I hit OK. And now you will see I'm going to close out of this, and I can hit close or I can X out, whichever one. I now have two sets. I have a 1 o'clock and I have a 9 o'clock for this student. And so that's getting the bare bones of this setup. Okay, so I'm going to flip over to the catheter, and we're going to show that it works the exact same way. So with the catheter, I want to set up a schedule because maybe I need to check this every hour, 2 hours, once a day. You would know what it would need to be for your student. I'm going to click the schedule. I'm going to click add. I'm going to choose my date range. Again, I'm only using these 2 days. And let's say it's at 10 o'clock a.m. Choose my days of the week, just as I do on all the other monitoring. Hit OK. And again, it's pending, so I have to submit. Are you sure you want to create this? Absolutely. And there it is. So now I have these monitoring events. So best practice is to schedule those events if at all possible so that as you come in during your day, you can live and breathe off of that daily to-do list. So let's go back here, and I'm going to flip to a school view now. I know I did that at district office, and yes, that can be done at the school view, but I want to show this on that daily list from the school view. The reason that we like having that scheduling is because we don't want to have to keep some manual list anywhere of who all we need to address during the day, and we don't want to have to go student record by student record. We really want to see it on that concise daily log. So I'm going to come over here to my help module. Again, no students selected over here. I'm going to go into help, and I'm going to go to my daily health to-do list. Again, that was what was called the daily help log in the old UI, and here it is in the new UI. So it's looking at today's date for all students that are enrolled. And you will see all of those tube feedings. So that tube feeding for Mickey that I just created at 9 o'clock, the 10 o'clock catheter monitoring that I just created at 10 o'clock, and the tube feeding monitoring I created for Mickey at 1 o'clock. Also, you'll see that I have some other monitoring events or medication events that are all on my daily health to-do log because you can schedule all of those type of things inside of the health module. So when it comes time to actually go through and enter the information on these, let's practice, and this is where I'm going to need my help, my nurses out there, because I don't know what to put in these. But let's say it's 9 o'clock in the morning and I've got our Mickey in here for his tube feeding monitoring. So I can click on that date and it's going to give that flyout. So all of those columns that we saw on that page of Mickey's record a little while ago are what come in this flyout screen and what are we writing to that record. So the first thing is the date and the time. So we're going to pretend that, it's a perfect world and we're doing it promptly on time at 9 o'clock. And if you were, a few minutes late or early, you could adjust that time within there. So these are all drop downs that are controlled by code sets that were provided to us, again, by that nurse task force who worked together to see what needed to be in these choices. And so for these types, we have these 3 right here. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce those. Don't know what they mean, but my nurses on here can help. So let's pretend I choose this gastrostomy. I don't know if I butchered that or said it right. Somebody's shaking their head, so I feel good on that one. And then the flow. Is this a gravity or is it a pump? So which one do y'all want? Somebody on the nurse, get on the chat and tell me what we want to put in here for an example. We want a gravity or pump. All right, pump. Saw that first, so we're going with pump. So then if I have the pump, I'm assuming I have to put in these pump settings right here. So we have a pre-H2O flush amount to enter. That was one that the nurses said needed to be captured in this. So what would be an accurate amount to see in a typical pump situation right here for somebody? Anybody want to throw me 10 cc's? Perfect. And then, okay, so we got an error there. So let's look at here. It says expected value or format is from a negative to a positive with decimals, which means it's not looking for a unit. It's just looking for the amount. Okay. So there's lesson learned right there. It's looking for the amount. The post flush amount. What will be what's an expected post flush amount? 15. Okay. See, I would be making up numbers like 200, 300, and not know. Would y'all record as a typical formula name or formula amount? So Pediasure. Okay. Oh, I get it now. Like what it is you're actually feeding. And formula amount. What would be an example there? 240. Oh, see, I got a big number somewhere. And then we do have 2,048 characters for any notes that you would need to enter. So if you needed to put any, personal thing there that you needed to say, I'm just typing in some letters to fill that in. All that note information can be captured there for you. And what kind of status do you want to leave this monitoring event right here in? Is it pending, complete, recheck, return, recheck in health room? Oh, that's a little note. Make a note of that. That's a duplication. Not sure why that is duplicated there, but we'll put that into PowerSchool to get that fixed. So we're going to say that this is a complete. To say that this one is finished. And when I hit submit, that is writing all that information to that record. So again, if we had any other tube feedings, that's the information that was requested to be entered by the district. So that is how this was built out for everyone to use. So now let's look at the catheter monitoring and what it looks like. So we scoped one of those to go out pending at 10 o'clock. So I'm going to click on that date and it's going to fly out my catheter monitoring screen. So this is, again, very similar functionality to how the diabetic monitoring works. So if you have been using PowerSchool for that portion of it, this would be very, very intuitive to you. So let's start with the catheter monitoring at 10 o'clock. So my type of catheterization, here are the two types that were given to us. Now these are code sets. So if things change with this, that would be something that would, or if you have requested changes to like these drop downs, that would need to be approved through LaBrenda Marshall. So you would send those emails to her, and if she says, yes, we need to have this in there, then we would be able to add those as additional options. But again, this is what the task force came out with. So I'm going to choose this. For catheter type, what would be a catheter type that I could type in here? Oh, Melinda's asking, does this take the place of daily meds, MAR? Melinda, I'm not sure what that even means, and it's probably going to need to be a question that you reach out to Dr. Marshall about to get clarification on expectations as far as the health side of that. I'm thinking if you had scheduled a feeding as a medication, then still find out if she wants you to put it in both, but this is how you would monitor. So you would put those amounts on there and all the other information. But we would put our catheter type right here. Not even sure what kind of a catheter type that would be. So I'm just going to type something in there. Catheter size. So you would enter in 10. It sounds like really big. 14. Somebody. Okay, there we go. Who was it performed by? Was it done by the school nurse or the student themselves? So we've got both options there. So let's say this was done by the school nurse. And then we have our clarity and color. So let's say it was clear and yellow. So you saw those options. We have yellow, amber, orange, pink, red, and other. And for clarity, clear, cloudy, and dark. If there was a noticeable odor, then you would check that box there. And then output, I'm not sure what kind of number to put right here, so we're just going to put something in there. And again, oh, okay, expected value or format null. That's interesting. That might be an error. I think they have a coding issue there. I'm gonna have to get with PowerSchool on that one. And then the notes area, again, if you have any notes that you need to add inside of here on this, you would be able to use that notes area. And we again have the pending and the complete or the return to health room or recheck in health room options that you could then submit. And so that is how we would facilitate that off of the actual monitoring to-do list. Notice if I go back into the student record, and let's go back to Mickey Mouse. we should now see that data populated in there. And sure enough, there's my 10 o'clock today. And here is my 9 o'clock tube feeding should be showing here with all that information. And I will go ahead and say this, oh, thank you, Christian, for letting me know about that duplication in the diabetic monitoring as well. That tells me there's probably some coding issue they need to take care of, and we'll get them notified of that. One question that I know a lot of people are going to ask is, hey, Stacy, are there going to be health reports where we can pull this monitoring just like we did the diabetic monitoring? And the answer to that is yes. So just in a release that we got put into pilot last night, it's the next core release of PowerSchool. It adds these tables to the Apex structure so we can build out an enterprise report for them. So we will be creating that same monitoring report for the tube feedings and for the catheters, just like we have that diabetic monitoring report in enterprise reports for you currently, so that you'll be able to pull all the information, including those notes, because y'all love being able to pull those notes out inside of there. Just like with the monitoring, you can, from any student in the school, do a one-off. You don't have to have a scheduling action on a student in order to be able to input this information. So I'm going to pull up a different student. Let's go to Wednesday Adams, who has nothing scheduled for her. And let's say this is a one-off that I needed to do. You can always do the add, where you go in and do this exact same information, put your information in all of the fields as you would have on the to-do list screen, put in here, I'm just putting whatever in and hitting complete, and you will notice it will right there as well. So you have two different ways that you can facilitate the data entry for both of these new monitoring events. They can be scheduled so that they hit your to-do list, or they can be added individually just from the student screen here. So do we have any questions? Because it is kind of simplistic, just like the diabetic monitoring was. And y'all know if we run into any issues as you're starting to enter any of that data, to let us know so that we can either report the feedback back to PowerSchool, get them to fix that, or if it's something that's in those drop-down lists that we need to talk with Dr. Marshall about, getting anything adjusted, we can. Any questions from anyone in the chat? Should this feature be active now in our PowerSchool? So Jennifer, it is if they enabled it. So at the very beginning of the video, I showed how the districts, in order for you to be able to see those tabs, have to go and check a box for it to show for you. So if you're your lead nurse in the district, go tag team with your district PowerSchool person. If you don't see them on this call, we've got 97 people on the call right now in 160 something districts. So I know not everybody's on here, but in district management under health and health setup, there are these check boxes that you would have to check right here to turn that on. Now, when this is over, I will render this video and put it out there on YouTube, just like I do with all of my other trainings, and I'll send this out to everybody in the state, all the lead nurses, tech directors, data managers, and PowerSchool administrators, with the directions to make sure they understand they've got to go check these boxes for you. Julie, is there a way to add to the diabetic monitoring and time in and a time out? Many of our patients want to know how long their student is spending daily in the health room and out of the classroom. This will be useful for all of our procedures. I don't know about that, Julie. I can definitely inquire. I know that would be a huge lift. It might be something in the notes area that you could put, but I don't know that there's going to be, because you've got that time, this is the time step of the monitoring event, but there's not a time out. Chesley, enable additional monitoring. Should I have on vision too? We have not asked districts to turn the enabled enhanced vision screenings on yet, because there are some fields that we have not set up on a state level yet that I've got to get with Dr. Marshall on that. That one, the end medication date default is completely up to your district, I'm thinking, Chesley. No frantic copying, you're good. Will the tab for procedures such as tube feeding stay on for student when pressed? Will the tab, all right, let me. Will the tab for procedure, are you talking about the on the actual student screen? Kimmy, the 3 different tabs that I have when you enable it? These tabs? They do stay. Yes, Julie, we'll put the whole video on there. Yes, as soon as they check that box, then these will stay and be there. That activates this new part of the feature. They call it a feature flag instead of it being on for everybody by force. There are some districts who don't even use the health portion of PowerSchool in other states, and so that's why a lot of stuff is feature flags when it comes to the health piece. I know everybody in the state will be using this unless you just don't have any students of that type of population. But I know that some of our more severe and profound health needs students are very heavily becoming more higher in numbers in the state. So we've had lots of conversation with nurses to work on functionality within here for you. And if you've never really used the diabetic monitoring, now that you've seen how this works right here, that diabetic monitoring works the same way in you scheduling and adding that information in there. There's also a page in the PowerSchool overall, what I call it their help menu. Like if you come up here to the little question mark and go into system help, that's PowerSchool's help area. There is a page on the monitoring that also gives these steps right here. I'll throw this into chat for everyone if you want it, because these steps right here is what your district PowerSchool person would have to take to enable those 2 new monitoring types for you so that you're ready for the start of school. I know we have 1 district that starts school tomorrow. I think we have 6 or 7 more that start on Thursday, and then a whole slew of you that start back next week. So I know y'all are raring and ready to start working and getting stuff ready for your students. All right, I am going to stop the recording because we've gone through all of the functionality, and as soon as we have the reports, the enterprise reports ready, it'll hit my newsletter that you all get. I'll do a little short video showing how you would go through there to work those separately. So let's stop this.